It is a familiar scam. You may have been on the receiving end of it yourself. A letter or email arrives offering a large payout for a nominal sum of assistance. Perhaps a family member is traveling and needs a few dollars to get out of jail, or a foreign-based company needs a tidy sum to process the transfer of thousands of dollars you're owed. It's the famous 419 scam. 419 for the article in the Nigerian Criminal Code that deals with this fraud. And it's the focus of author Will Ferguson's 2012 Giller Prize-winning novel, 419. And Will Ferguson joins us now on the line from Calgary, Alberta, to tell us more about how he put these facts into his fictional novel. Will, it's good to have you on the line from Alberta. How are you tonight?
Very good, thanks. How are you?
Just great, thank you. Well, what convinced you that there was not reportage, but rather a fictional story to be told around the whole Nigerian internet scam 419 business?
Well, the real story is so fascinating, the story behind 419. So a lot of the book is based on real case studies, real transcripts, real crimes. I think what snagged my attention was the idea that this email scam can be traced back to the days of Shakespeare. You can trace this back to the Elizabethan era. And that's what really, I think, grabbed my attention, was the idea that what we're seeing is a modern manifestation of a very, very old scam.
Okay, if it were 419 in Nigeria today, what would Shakespearean times be the equivalent of?
Well, it wouldn't be email, obviously.
Right.
But in the wake of the Spanish Armada in 1588, a lot of English, even though England won and defeated Spain, a lot of English noblemen drowned, disappeared, were swept out to sea. And soon after, not emails, but quill and ink letters began to circulate. And if you read them, they're uncannily similar to what we get today. It's, "Dear Sir, I am the daughter of an imprisoned English nobleman who has an immense fortune. He needs just a small amount up front to bribe his captors." It's an advance fee fraud, and it's as old as time.
Just goes to show you there's nothing new under the sun ever, is there?
No. Huh. No. Of course, the 419 scam was perfected in Nigeria. Today you can find it coming out of Ukraine, Amsterdam, the US. But it was in Nigeria that was really perfected. That's why the name 419, as you mentioned, comes from the Nigerian Criminal Code. It's sometimes called the Nigerian scam, just because I think the Nigerians were the first to really understand the potential of the internet age and what you could do with it. They were early adapters.
Early adapters, that's nice.
Yes.
Your protagonist, Henry Curtis, I wonder if you could go into the qualities that he has that you think makes him, in the book, an ideal candidate to be on the receiving end of this scam.
Yes. The novel, again, I should mention, it is fictional. It's not a how-to guide. I don't want people to think they should go to Nigeria like the character does. Basically, an older fellow dies, gets caught up in a 419 scam, dies, and his daughter decides to go to Nigeria and track down the people she feels is responsible for her father's death. Again, not something you should do. The case of her father is based on an actual case study that I read. What makes him a target, he's an older retired shop teacher, and he's not very tech savvy. And unfortunately, the sad truth is that these con artists very often target senior citizens for several reasons. They're sitting on savings. They often own their own home. They often tend to be a bit lonely. They are more trusting. And as I mentioned, they're not as tech savvy as others. So they do tend to target seniors. And the victim in the book is a senior citizen.
So you add up all those qualities, and that makes them particularly vulnerable to this kind of entreaty. Is that it?
Yes, unfortunately so.
And how about the use of typos or grammatical errors in these email notes? How does that add to the authenticity of the scam?
Well, as I researched 419, I realized there's actually a controversy in the crime investigators on 419, and it's whether these intentional typos that we get, because they're always riddled with typos and bad English, is whether they're intentional or not. And there's two schools of thought. One is that these formats that they send out, they mass mail them, and then they're working on the spam principle. You know, if you send out 1 million spams, you don't need 1 million responses to make it worthwhile. You really just need one. So the idea is that these formats have been around for so long, and they work, so they don't want to tinker with them. And the original ones are poorly written, so hence they repeat them. The other school of thought, which I'm not sure if I'm convinced, but is that they're intentionally poorly written because the person you really want to snag is someone who's greedy. The character in my book is not greedy, but the ones they want to get are the greedy ones, and they read an email full of typos and mistakes, and they think, this semi-illiterate rube from Africa, I'll take this guy for everything. Because remember, the core of the scam is that they're going to move, say, $20 million into your bank account, and you're going to keep 10% or 20% or 15%. But there is a certain type of person who thinks, what's stopping me from keeping all of it? And the idea is that these poorly written emails kind of pander to people who are very, very greedy and who are thinking they're smarter than the 419 con artist. And what you really want in a mark, if you're a con artist, is you want them to think they're smarter than you. That's always a good thing if you're a scammer.
There's one of the characters in your book that refers to this whole 419 scam business as, quote, Nigeria's greatest innovation. And I wonder if you could help us understand how important this whole scam idea is to the overall Nigerian economy.
Well, it's good and bad. I mean, it's big business. The 419 is a huge industry. It's one of the biggest industries in Nigeria after oil. On the negative side, though, and here's where it gets bad. Here's the problem with 419 is that it's, of course, illegal. It's illegal money. It's not. No one's paying taxes on 419. 419 money is not helping build infrastructure in Nigeria. It's not helping to fund government projects. It's not even helping to fix the potholes. But the unfortunate side to the 419 is that it makes it harder for legitimate Nigerian businessmen to find investors because it's tainted the whole world of Nigerian investment. So a legitimate investment firm in Nigeria has a real uphill climb because of the image that the 419ers have created around Nigeria.
So in that respect, then, you would think that the government of Nigeria would be most anxious to shut this kind of thing down, lest its reputation around the world be worse than it already is. Are they, in fact, trying to do that?
Yes, they are actually. They have a thing called the EFCC, the Economic Financial Crimes Commission in Nigeria. They're up against. It's like trying to shut down the mafia in Sicily. It's a big task. What they're doing is they're targeting the bigger crimes. There was a Hong Kong widow who lost, I think $2 million, and they tracked down those people and got the money back. So they're targeting the big ones. But unfortunately, the smaller victims, which are plentiful, the Nigerian law enforcement has enough on their plate that they're not going to stake out the Western Union and try to catch somebody who's picking up money that's been wired to them from a school teacher in Saskatoon. They have enough already facing them. So unfortunately, for the vast majority of victims of 419, that money is gone, and it's gone for good.
I think I saw a reference somewhere to a University of Pennsylvania study which showed that this scam is the third or fourth largest source of revenue for Nigerians. Have you got a ballpark on what that potentially represents?
Well, I've heard different numbers, and they're staggering. And remember that these are only ones that are reported and accounted for. But the latest figures I saw that for North America is $700 million a year. Siphoned off in the North American economy. But again, those numbers are very hard to peg because a lot of people don't report it.
Now, tell us about your travels. How deep into Nigeria did you have to go? How much traveling did you have to do to try to get on top of this story?
Well, the book is set in the crime dens of Lagos and in the Niger Delta, which is off limits to visitors without flak jackets and armed guards. Just to give you a sense how dangerous the underworld in Nigeria is, I returned in August. I was in the Lake Kivu area of Congo and the borders Congo and Rwanda, the area between, which is now on the brink of war. And I was actually at a refugee camp, a Congolese refugee camp in this area. That did not faze me. But I did not go to Lagos. I did not go to Nigeria, to the Niger Delta, I should say, to research this because it is a work of fiction. And I didn't want to end up floating face down in Lagos Lagoon. So I have limits on how much risk I will take.
Well, good for you. I'm sure your friends and family are glad to hear that. But
my wife in particular, yes.
Your wife in particular, good. But following up, do you know, I mean, this book of yours, obviously having won the Giller Prize, received much more attention than it might otherwise have done had it not. And I wonder whether anybody over there is aware of this, and therefore, are you persona non grata? Could you go back if you wanted to?
Well, I think I don't think I've been. I mean, there has been some grumblings and some complaints. Often it's about factual small things like the language. I had trouble with the many languages that they speak in Nigeria. So often people have brought up typos or spelling mistakes, that sort of thing. But I think the book tries to be fair and tries to show the impact that 419 has not only on the Western victims, but on Nigeria itself and on the economy. And the book, I should explain, does tell the other side. It does flip it over, and you see the life of the people in Nigeria who get caught up in this. So it's not, I hope, a one-sided look at the crime.
No, fair enough, but I wonder if you've had anybody, emails from anybody or contact saying, well, you know what, you put us in a pretty bad light here, and if you ever come back, you're in trouble. Anything like that?
No, I was disappointed that I didn't get a bunch of emails asking me to let them move $30 million into my account. I was disappointed. Because, I mean, how can I lose? I'll do that.
You didn't make $30 million off this, but you did make $50,000, I think, for winning the Giller Prize, right?
That's right. And I did not send it to Nigeria, I promise.
Good for you. What did you do with the money?
Actually, we took a trip. My wife's Japanese. We went back to Japan for the New Year's, and you the money here and there. I think what people don't realize about the Giller effect is that the prize money is actually just kind of the tip of the iceberg. The sales rocket up because of that, and the royalties quickly surpass the prize money as well. So the Giller is amazing. I should just give a shout out to the Giller because in Canada, we tend to assume that film and television, music are worthy of red carpet gala events. But until the Giller came along, I don't think people really had that notion about literature. And I like the fact that they treat literature as something as worthy as film, as television, as music of that treatment. Well, that's off topic, but I just wanted to put it out there for you,
No,
Steve.
that's fine. Just put a number on it. If you don't win the Giller, you sell how many books? If you do win the Giller, you sell how many books?
Well, usually well, it's hard to say, but you can sell upwards of 100,000 copies of a book, sometimes more, sometimes less. Usually it's they do it in how many hundreds of times the sale has gone up. So if a book has sold 20,000 copies and now it sells 100,000 copies, that's a bigger jump than a book that already sold 100,000 and then went to 150, for example.
Gotcha.
But I don't know any author who's ever complained about winning a Giller.
No kidding. Tell me this. We've got about a minute to go here. How does travel writing compare to writing the novel?
Travel writing is easier. I mentioned I was in Rwanda and on the border of Congo. That's for a nonfiction book. The next one I'm working on is nonfiction. And it's easier because it's just my experiences directly. Whereas when you're writing fiction, you're imagining other people's lives and you have to think in so many perspectives. In many ways, travel writing is easier because it's really your perspective.
Will, I noticed that the long list for the Giller Prize for this year just came out and I didn't see your name on it. And I'm wondering how disappointed you are. There's
some mistake, clearly. They've overlooked me somehow. The fact that I don't have a novel out this year is really immaterial. I think there was just an oversight on their part.
No excuse, Will. No excuse. I don't care that you didn't write a book. Your name should still be on the list.
I'm with you. I agree.
It's awfully good of you to spend some time with us on TVO tonight. Thanks so much, Will Ferguson.
Well, thanks for having me.
Support Ontario's public television. Donate at tvo.org.